What's the correlation between Emily's experience and this greenness?
A surname.
Oh, green, of course. Didn't even connect the dots. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's your favorite two Audiophiles, probably not. Andy and John. We hope everyone is well out there. John, how you doing today, buddy?
Favorite two, and only two on the channel. Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, I'm going to assume fair to middling, and just keep pressing forward here. Today, John, you're going to be offering me up a song to go off and listen to. What have you got in the chamber, pal?
So we're going back to a band who, I have to say, I was surprisingly pleased with, like the number of people who watched the episode recently. Geese.
Ah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I knew they were sort of like flavor du jour at the
Hmm.
time in terms of critics' response and everything. But yeah, so another track off that album. Um, this one is called Islands of Men.
Okay, so we're going from 100, give or take, horses to
Yeah.
islands of men. All right, that's an interesting name. Obviously, it makes you think of, what is it, the John Donne poem or whatever it is. No island or no man is an island, none, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Let me go off and give this thing a spin, and I will come back and let you know my thoughts. It's so weird that plonking sound almost it's really reminiscent of like a leaky faucet, just drips dropping in or just around the drain. That sort of hollow sound that it has. Yeah, that is it's an interesting way to start off a song. It's like metronomic, but it does have that echoey sound of water.
You look green like you've been. This the islands of men. Thought you'd find what it means. Peace of mind. You can't keep womankind in your dreams. You can't keep running away from what is real and what is fake.
So there is this I don't know, this feeling of like whoever he's addressing is like self-isolating and sort of keeping themselves almost like an island onto themselves. Very reminiscent of the John Donne poem, or no man is an island entire to itself, every man is a piece of the continent, so on and so forth. But it sounds like this person to whom the song is addressed is defiantly of the belief that they can sort of block all of that out, perhaps the good and the bad, for the sake of maybe self preservation, but that is really misguided. I can't help but think of like the sort of this social repercussion of all the pandemic and what that resulted in, and how many oftentimes young men isolated themselves during that, and how that sort of retarded them socially, and made them more distant and perhaps internally and sometimes externally volatile, because it's just not a healthy way to progress in in what is a society. So, interesting stuff.
You can't keep running away from what is real.
That's nice bass work. Obviously the drums too.
You look weak. You have seen islands of men.
That guitar.
Sinking low as you speak. I'm not surprised. Will you stop running away from what is real and what is fake? Will you stop running away from what is real and what is fake? Will you stop running away from what is real? Will you stop running away? Will you stop running away? Will you stop running away?
Ooh. This is interesting. Those stops you could hear at points, like a little noodling there in the background, and the way those, like, when they would bring the music back for those sort of like punctuations, the sound quality of that. I'm going to take that back a little bit. Is that organ? Yeah, it's interesting. I like that. Is that a horn coming in the left? There it is again. Ooh, that bass. On the guitar. The horns are over here now. Excellent stuff. I love the way that that song grew and just sort of progressed as the song went along. There was, you know, I want to hold rein in it a little bit. It's not. It wasn't like a cacophony of sound, but there were so many different sounds happening when the song was really reaching its apex. And I loved that because it was sort of like this kind of Where's Waldo when you're trying to like focus on certain parts of the collective because there's so much happening. You're trying to discern. Did I hear organ there? Are those horns? They're here. No, they're here now. The guitar work and the sometimes the more fevered picking at points was really interesting to listen to. The bass kind of coming and going from focus at different points. And the excellent percussion work, all of it was fabulous. I even loved the kind of soulful, you know, nature to his vocals, somewhere between soulful and I don't know, more traditional rock type vocals, but they sounded lovely. All of this sounded really, and I think I don't know, maybe the first minute into the song, I don't know if I would have said this, but as a whole, and now here at the end, having listened to all of it and how it kind of unfolded, I do think I like this more than 100 Horses. I liked 100 Horses very much, but there's something different about this song that made it a little bit more special. And I do love what I assume. Well, I love the lyrics, but I and my assumed meaning of them. And I don't know if it's almost directed at himself, like as this reminder or this almost like mantra, or someone else. And I suppose it doesn't really matter because the sentiment is still there no matter who it's aimed at. And I have to agree with it. Like sometimes it's easy to think I'm just going to pull back and kind of isolate myself from the madness, you know. But that doesn't really address how you cope with and get through it. You can't just hide from things, or like quarantine yourself away from all of it, you know. Yeah, it's an interesting bit of subject matter that I found particularly intriguing and somewhat relatable, and I'm sure plenty of people do out there. So yeah, this was a lot of fun listening to this song. I loved all the elements in the music and the way it was kind of cobbled together, and the way it, you know, grew. And I love the subject matter and the way he presented it through his vocals. So this is another win for Geese. I can't wait to get back to John and learn more about this one. So let's do just that.
Ciao Fonta Latimer is back. So you've had a listen to Islands of Men by Geese. Relatively fresh off the press, just a couple of months back. What do you think?
I think a lot. This was a really interesting listen. It was like a quasi journey that we went on here. So the track opens with what almost sounds like to me. I mean, I know it's not, but it has this. There are these metronomic plonks, but they're almost akin to drips of water falling from a leaky faucet directly or just around the drain because there's this hollow nature when it hits, almost like it hits on the drain and then goes down. I thought that was a really interesting way to kick off a track. Um, and then it's a soon thereafter a near seamless transition into the proper percussive beat as the guitar emerges from the distance, all gentle with just the slightest bounce between chords. And as this lovely and gentle motif takes shape, the is it Cameron Winter? Is that correct? The vocalist? Yeah, his voice joins the mix, singing of how this you is looking green, like they've seen the islands of men, which is an interesting line and concept. Green from being, made ill, or green from envy. I don't know. Just trying to correlate what Green is alluding to in this context. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind, as I mentioned before, just listening to the song, is that John Donne poem, in which he opens, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." So I'm thinking this might be addressing a similar theme of sort of this self-implemented isolationism, or this false belief in complete self-sufficiency or reliance. I think we said recently, we were talking about how humans are inherently, even much to their own chagrin at times, a societal beast. So when we try to divorce ourselves from what is truly natural about us, something gets lost in that. And I can't help but think, just in the way I think I'm becoming, and we are becoming more hyper aware of that in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and the isolationism that came with it, and sort of the falling into what eventually became the comforts of that. I know it was really weird at first, but at some point over a 2 year period, it starts to become the new normal, as we often heard being used around that time. And the problem is, as we're now out of that, there are people who still don't want to remove themselves from that mindset and fall back into what life was like before it, which is incredibly detrimental to those individuals, to the point now where it's verging, it's like, coming up on becoming a mental health crisis for some individuals. I think, we're looking at acts of violence, or this really weird mentality that comes along with isolationism. And I think that that's starting to rear its head, and we're seeing that probably, I don't know if you guys are as much over there, but over here we were already susceptible to societal violence, acts of violence. But I think this only enhances that, or makes it more volatile. But go on, it looked like you wanted to chime in. I don't want to stop.
Yeah, I mean, there is the mental health issues in terms of people being cut off from society during lockdown. Um, Definitely. And I think it's been sort of discussed, definitely at a child level in terms of their schooling and their socialization. And we're seeing
Mm.
the effects of it a few years down the line. There was a big ramping up of, funny enough, with this song, toxic masculinity, Andrew Tate, all this stuff amongst kids at
Oh yeah,
school. Huge amount. Um, but the other really obvious effect was a lot of people thought this is all right, and they decided not to rejoin the workplace and the workforce. And so there was an economic hit as well. There were lots of people in their 50s taking early retirement. Shit knows how they managed it. I mean, I could barely get from paycheck to paycheck, but yeah, they did. And so there's quite a large number of people that didn't rejoin the workforce as well post-pandemic. So there's an economic effect as well of this isolation.
exactly. There's a lot that
Yeah.
splinters off from this overall issue of coming out of the pandemic. But you're right. I mean, I think the one of the largest demographics that were susceptible to this perversion of the mind, um, were young men. And just this idea of, go picking the wrong idols or people to cope with or through. And you named one of them just there, and there's a litany of those ass hats over here. that only further damaged this generation of folks. So yeah, it's really interesting subject matter. We're not going to get to the bottom of it or the cure for it through this discussion, but it's still very much evident. And for whatever reason, the topic of this this song took me there and made me think of those individuals affected by that. So, he follows up the first stanza with, "You can't keep womankind in your dreams. You can't keep running away from what is real and what is fake." And these lyrics only further underscore I think, my supposition from, pardon me, that whomever he's addressing might be self-isolating and becoming more and more divorced from the real world. This is just my interpretation upon first listen. I'm sure I'm wildly off base here. Uh, and he hits the line running away. Or as he hits the line running away, the beat hits harder and the strum becomes a bit more fevered. So now the song's energy has been elevated and it feels like the mood has taken on a more earnest sentiment, than that sort of bouncy nature, or even light-hearted feel, to the beginning. Again, Winter reiterates the line, "You can't keep running away from what is real." And this time his voice has even more conviction in it as the drums then inject these little bits of embellishment and accent. These added bits of variation and percussion continues as the next stanza of lyrics unfold with more allusions to this idea of sinking into the mindset of running away from what is real and what is fake. He repeats that line, "Will you stop running away?" And after the final delivery of the line, the music cuts out briefly before it continues in the form of these very almost, again, and I've used this term before, and I don't know if it's just my own, what I'm hearing and not what others are, but there's this almost aquatic sound to it, like it's wet. And I like that sort of sounding and the accenting of the notes. And this is coming in between more breaks in the music. And it's fun because sometimes during the breaks you can actually make out this faint noodling on the guitar, like, "Oh shit, you can pick that up. I was just back here fucking around. Sorry, my bad." So I enjoyed that. Then at the 344 mark, the music continues unmitigated by the stop and start motif that they just toyed with. And it features this very smooth sounding guitar and some lovely percussions and bass work working beneath it. Then begins some nice vocalization over top of this groove and what sounds like some subtle but lovely ascending horn notes. And they're coming in the left can, as the bass noodles away and the guitar focuses on some beautifully fluttering high notes. Honestly, all the instruments at this point are working so well together to create this uplifting, almost ethereal sound as your man continues to vocalize and sing "Running Away," as the song then comes to an end. And I think during that, actually, the horn shifted because I think I ended up catching them over in the right can as this part progressed up until the end. This was quite a little treat, this tune. I think I liked it just a hair more than 100 horses. Now, I don't know if I would have said that a minute into the track, but by the time we got to the end of it, that's where I fell on this. Now, I'd have to listen to them both again and give it some time. I've only listened to 100 horses maybe 4 times since we did that episode. Because you clearly put the handcuffs on me as far as listening to any of their other shit, so I was just relegated to hitting repeat on the one song I was familiar with. So I was so tempted. I just slapped my hand every time I was going for the cue for the next track because it was just more of their shit. I'm like, nah, I can't listen to that. So yeah, I think I like this more, or at least my first listen, I liked this more than 100 horses. But that should take nothing away from that track. This one just had something special in it, and I can't quite put my finger on it after just one go. Perhaps it's the more easily, well, I say this, I'm probably completely wrong here, but I put in my notes, the more easily understood messaging. And even if I'm off, I still think it makes more sense than the whole tale of the 100 horses and sort of the imagery and that was harder to, drum up a meaning or anything to correlate there. But perhaps, perhaps I'm off or whatever. More listens will shed further light on where I truly stand on the two songs. But there was something I think more relatable or human. There was like this humanistic quality to it, that either makes you feel sympathy or empathy, and the distinction being like empathy is like you've been there before and therefore you feel for this individual who's going through it, or sympathy in that I've never felt it but I clearly see that you're struggling and therefore I feel for you. Either way, there's this human quality essence in this track that was less so in 100 Horses, at least from my vantage point, and that made it more relatable and even a bit more uplifting in nature as the song progressed. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I found it uh interesting from a subject matter standpoint. Even if I'm off, the fact that a song could evoke that much thought in me about an issue perhaps it's not even about, it speaks to the power of the track. So please tell me a bit more about this one, John.
So, as you said, we have previously done an episode quite recently from the same album, 100 Horses. I talk more about the band in that. I'll put a link in below so you can go off and that. We'll concentrate just on this song. So this is the fifth track from the 2005 album, Getting Killed. Interesting enough, you talk about the two songs. The sixth track is 100 Horses, so they're next to each other whenever I listen to them. So just to recap, as you mentioned, Cameron Winter, lead vocals, keyboards, guitar, Emily Green, guitar, Dominic DiGizu, bass, and Max Bassin, drums. The lyrics to all the songs were written by Cameron Winter, and the music was collectively done by Geese. So yeah, this is an interesting song. It is layered in terms of what he's referring to in his meanings. I wouldn't say I'm certain, having done a load of research into this, as to what it exactly is, but there's definitely a couple of bits. So the easiest thing I think is I will just go through the lyrics and then we'll discuss what I've found out in my research. So, you look green, like you've been to see islands of men. Thought you'd find what it means, peace of mind. You can't keep womankind in your dreams. You can't keep running away from what is real and what is fake. You can't keep running away from what is real. Lazy-eyed, you look weak. You have seen the islands of men. Sinking low as you speak, I'm not surprised. Will you stop running away from what is real and what is fake? Will you stop running away from what is real and what is fake? Oh, will you stop running away from what is real? Will you stop running away? Will you stop running away? Will you stop running away? Then that bridge, as you said, and the breakdown. When it comes back, some of the vocals here are quite quiet and muffled, so you will not pick them up. So he actually sings, "Let me see what you're made of." That's really quiet. You only know it's there if you've got the lyrics in front of you. Ooh, and then he repeats many times, "Man is an island, man is an island. Man is an island, man is an island, man is an island, man is an island, yeah. Man is an island, man is an island, yeah. Man is an island, man is an island." Oh, running away, running away, running away, running away, running away all the time to this horrible place. Oh, you can't keep running away, you can't keep running away, you can't keep running away, you can't keep running away. You can't keep running away, you cannot keep. You can't keep running away, running away. You can't keep running away. Yeah, so that man is an island thing right in there. So yeah, these are some of the various notes I've collated across this album, though most notably on tracks such as Half Real and Au Pays de Cocaine. Cameron Winter explores loneliness and the desperation of reaching out across impossible distances and trying to reclaim a lost lover or lost time, but being unable to. So that isolation is a theme. You look green, with the very first words of the song. Alongside the meaning of nauseous, nervous, or inexperienced, is also likely a nod to guitarist Emily Green, who this song may be written about. Much more specific to the context and lyrics of this song, though, is "Man is an Island." It's also about trans identity. So like an island to a trans woman, the label of manhood can be something that she is both familiar with, yet it feels to be lonely, enclosed, and socially isolating. In a recent article for GQ, Geese guitarist Emily Green said that she is a more confident, less timid person now since transitioning. Um, so so you've got that layer going on within there. It's interesting. He's describing about the sort of nature of masculinity.
What's the correlation between Emily's experience and this greenness?
A surname.
Oh, green, of course. Didn't even connect the dots. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I just heard Emily and was like, that's all I need to know. It's okay. Gotcha.
The topic of this song paints a picture similar to that of the pure eternus archetype, the type of guy who always stuck in fantasies, not being able to face reality and commitment. Simultaneously, they're not able to face what they see as the fake sides of life. They run away from any situation that might put them in a box or force them to conform. This kind of affliction seems to be also common amongst the current generation. Cameron is urging this person, possibly himself to some extent, to quit trying to escape and just stay present and face reality. It's interesting on that, and this is one of the thoughts that struck me the first time. I was wondering if this was to do with toxic masculinity, but also attitudes towards uh, sexual relations and what is real and what is fake in terms of sort of the rise of access to online pornography and the sort of trends within that. It's alarming. I won't go into details, but things like spitting and choking are seen to be more common and almost, de rigueur, which forget the pun, but is quite, obviously something that's done for effect within they are an entertainment industry of sorts. It's not real. There's that wonderful film that I always forget the title of. Is it Idio Idiocracy or something like that?
Idiocracy. Yeah. Is that what we're
Yeah,
talking
and I
about?
look,
Idiocracy?
yeah, when he wakes up in the future, he's a fairly dumbass, but everyone is fucking stupid, and the population's dying out because they've only learned sex through porno videos, so no one finishes or completes inside, as it were. It's all facials and stuff, so no one gets pregnant because they've only learned from pornos. I just thought that was hilarious. It really was. What's his name? Is it Shepherd? Thinking Bobby Bell's husband stars in it. Dak Shepherd.
Yeah, Dak Shepard. Yeah.
Yeah, really funny film. Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of a bit like that, and and that ties in with the Andrew Tate stuff about how um, men are supposed to treat women, and yeah, it's nasty stuff. Just
Yeah.
to clear up on this, pure eternus is Latin for eternal boy, and it's a term from Carl Jung's analytical psychology, describing a psychological archetype as someone who avoids growing up, shirking responsibility in favor of a life of fantasy and potential, which is kind of like what you're saying about people in lockdown. Going, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to real life. I want to stay in this
Yeah.
bubble. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
this Peter Pan complex coupled with this pilgrimage to living a digital life rather than going back to the real world. It's a weird marriage of those two ideologies, right? You know what I mean? One of which, the Peter Pan thing's been existing for
yeah,
I'm sure decades, if not centuries. But the digital paradigm of that and the living in the digital wasteland is a newer one. And when those two, they're already unhealthy, completely divorced of one another. But when you merge them, it becomes quite a Frankenstein of fuckery. Like, how are you going to navigate life if this is how you want to live?
yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean, that first lockdown, once the anxiety passed, are we all going to die? Is there still going to be a society? How the hell am I going to pay my mortgage? And I got a 6 month mortgage holiday. It's like, thank God. And then, we were obviously paid during furlough. Um, all the anxiety was away, and it was almost like an extended holiday. And as I remember it, the weather was fantastic. There was no traffic or anything, so wildlife came back. You'd hear the birds singing every morning. It was just, it was like a Disney film. It was lovely. Meanwhile, people were going through hell in the hospitals and nursing homes, and I didn't see any of that,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously. And I didn't mind the break from society because I knew it wasn't forever. I mean, it's true what you say as well. There's the old saying, "Hell is other people," but also it's also what makes life worth living as well. So
Exactly.
yes, so yeah, that's about as much as I got on this. I just think it's really interesting. A song in terms of the context, and I think it does go into those different sort of aspects that you said in terms of its particularly isolation and running away from what's real and fake. Um, yeah, just really interesting. And each time I listen to it, I change my mind just a little touch about what he's getting on about or what it means to me, which is a sign of a great song, I think.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
I said this before, this album is a Bobby Dazzler. It's easily one of the best albums I've heard in the last couple of years. Really complete track for track. There isn't a weak track.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So I won't give you any more from this album. You can go off and listen to it now and enjoy it, because I'll tell you what, there's some really good stuff on there. Those two you've heard are at the time my favourite two, but not necessarily the best two. You'd probably like other tracks just as much, and I wouldn't blame you if you did, because there's some really good stuff on here. Really interesting as well.
Yeah.
The
I
opening
look forward
track,
to
he
chatting up with you
screams,
more.
"There's a bomb in my car." It's just amazing. A really interesting lyric as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a couple of slices of Geese for you.
I
Before, thank
appreciate you putting me onto them, John.
Yeah, really good. Right, I shall wrap things up, folks out there. Please do hit the like button if you like this and tell us what you think. Drop some comments. We'd love to hear from you about this album, which I think will be on a lot of people's end of year best of lists. But yeah, and this track as well. If you got any insight on what Cameron was going on about, and there's very interesting lyrics. I think musically it's a great track as well. But yeah, love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. So hop on board, and don't forget to ring that bell when you join. It lets us know there's somebody else in the room. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.